One more change.
Oh, there's one.
Call the council meeting to order. Is there any additions to that? Motion to accept the agenda. Campbell and Leach. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest, if there's any. None noted. For the Reeves report, that summer's going quickly, and sometimes some of my counselors get me in embarrassing positions.
You noticed the picture in the paper, if that's the one you're talking about.
But I want to say that the jet rally at the airport went very well. To my knowledge, there was only one crash. And he was watching his altitude okay, coming in, but he got a little too far sideways and ticked one of the lights at the side of the airstrip. Those little models don't stick together too well after that. The street festival in Blythe went very well as well. It just seems that we have so many things happening at the same time that it's hard to get a super big crowd to any of it. But I want to say a thank you to all those that worked at putting both the street fest and the ones that helped with the jet rally, including staff. Thank you very much. Moving on to the reading of the minutes, there's the 3 different meetings there.
I'll move acceptance of all 3.
Thank you, Vauden and Hallahan. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay. For the deputation, Pat, do you want to introduce it?
I will. So if council remembers back to last year, we're renewing our lease for the Galbraith Field, which is a lease with the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority. And at that time, we decided to lease it for 1 year because we wanted to wait for the outcomes of the school planning, whether how many soccer fields were going in at the new school location. And we wanted to hear from Wingham Minor Soccer whether there was still an ongoing need to use that field. So in order to get some of those answers, I've invited Fred Valdez, who is the president of Wingham Minor Soccer, to update council on all of the goings-on with Wingham Minor Soccer and the use of the fields and how that is changing as the school fields are changing as well. So Fred, if you want to come on up to the podium, I'll introduce, this is Fred here, and he'll go through his information, and then if we have questions, we'll have time for that as well. So Fred, you're on.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Mr. Reeve and Council. It's, I guess, a long time coming since I talked to anyone here. I don't know too many people besides Mr. Campbell on the council, but I've put some numbers on there for costs of the field and income. But the gist of it was we wanted to say thank you on behalf of Wingham Minor Soccer for keeping the field, installing the field down there. It's one of the nicer fields in North Huron, and a lot of parents are really happy with the parking accessibility and getting to play on the field. And from the players, it's one of the nicest fields to play on in North Huron. So thank you very much for everything you've done for us, and we hope that you continue to keep it a soccer field as, we'd sure like to put it to good use, and I'll outline how we're using it right now, and then some of our plans in the near future. So, as of this year, we have about 340 players in Wingham Minor Soccer. It came out to about 29 teams. So there's a lot of players in Wingham and the surrounding areas who come to Wingham to play. We're using a lot of fields in the Wingham area, and it's basically to capacity from the fields that we used to use. Traditionally, it was only Turnberry, Effie, Medill, and then when we got Galbraith, that really supplemented our fields, and that became our main field. But if you'll refer to that field matrix that I gave everyone before the meeting, I wanted just to show you what fields were being used when I talk about supplementing Galbraith. Basically, we're using Turnberry fields for the kiddie kickers, the U6s, and the U8s. And by U's, I mean under 6s, under 8s, and the kiddie kickers are the guys 4 years old, 5 years old. So they're the little guys playing out there. They don't really have a line field so much. They're kind of just going every which way, and we're just trying to keep them within a certain area and make sure we don't lose too many kids out there. At the Pentecostal church, we tend to have more practices, and we do use it for a field, but the field isn't quite big enough for a proper size field, so it's usually U10, U12 games. The Galbraith field now is our major field that we use, so we have the U14, U16, U18 games down there, and then a few practices. At the Eelman field, which is just down the number 4 south and to the left, John and Sylvia Eelman have graciously let us use their field for a few years now. They have family soccer, the adult drop-in soccer is there, the adult soccer teams practice there, and then we use it occasionally. This year we only use it the one night on Monday, but we have used it for other nights and for makeup games if we have to, but that means we have to go out there and set up a field and line it and everything, which is a kind of a royal pain getting out there and doing everything. So we didn't line it this year, and we didn't have to use it as a makeup field. But we're really thankful for using it. And then you have the high school fields. The upper field is a small field, so you can't use it for games, but we have practices up there. And because of the upper field being rutted so much from track and field practices, they have discus toss and shot put toss and that stuff, it's really bad field for the kids to play on. So we try to limit the uses as much as we can up there. And then the lower field, same thing, it's pretty bad shape. Those fields we're hoping to redo, but as of now, I don't know what the timeline is for that. We're really hoping that the new maintenance school has a field of regulation size that we can use next year, 2014, but I don't know if the high school upper and lower fields will be ready to go by then. And just the way things have been going, I kind of doubt that for right now. So that would be a big reason why we consider that Galbraith would be very useful next year, and probably even further years after that. Going back to the outline that I've given you, we are surviving with the 340 players by using the Eelman field and Pentecostal field. But for sure, the Turnberry school, that's up in the air as to how long we can use that. We have the lease for July of this year that we used it until the end of our soccer season, but I don't know what's going to happen next year for it. And if we do lose that field, we'll have to relocate about 150 players from there somewhere else. And we've been told up by the new maintenance school there won't be enough space up there to relocate all these 150 players. So the idea would be then to make space either down at Galbraith and then use some of the Galbraith field time for U16, U14, U18 games up at the new Maitland School on that regulation size pitch. So that would be one consideration of using Galbraith. I touched on the Effie Medill upper and lower field being redone, but timelines, not sure about that. And then even when we do get those fields, the accessibility and the parking is a big thing for us, that we don't have the nice close parking there to get down to the lower field Medill. It's just going to be harder for a lot of parents, grandparents coming out to see the games. Rainy nights, parents park right in the parking lot and they watch the games. We've had some pretty cold nights down at Galbraith this year, so parents just head to the cars and they watch the field from there. So that's a really nice usage of that parking area for the parents, and it's really been enjoyed by many. As for further plans, we do not have a competitive league right now. And we've been really, as parents have requested from us that we step into that kind of arena. So what we're trying to do is join the Stratford Area League. We're kind of in the center of their traveling zone because they go north of us and they go south of us. And the idea is that we join them for the U14, U16, U18 in their, I guess, wherever they play. And we'd also have to join part of the Albion Middlesex Soccer Association and be part of OSA. And then the idea with that, those teams would be rep teams, and then we'd still have the local house league teams because we're considered house league right now. And our top players then would form together from Brussels, Teeswater, Blythe, and Lucknow. And we'd form rep teams that would play in the Stratford League. When we make a rep team at any of those age groups, we have to have an extra field to practice on because they'll practice on 2 nights of the week, and then they'll have to have an extra game field for them to play on. So that, if you look at the field matrix, would be really hard to add on to that field matrix timeline there. We're really hoping that goes through. And the other thing along with that is we would like to do U14, U16, and U18 tournaments. Doing that, you need 2 good fields for sure. 3 would be awesome. It's so much easier to run a tournament with 3 fields. When you get to those older age groups, the older kids, they tend to work a lot of the nights of the week. When you try to have a tournament, we found this year for a U16 tournament, they just couldn't make so many games because they couldn't commit to that many nights during the week. If we had 3 fields going at any particular time, and this year we kind of survived on the 1 Galbraith field. We used the high school field for 1 game, or 2 games, sorry, but we really didn't want to do it, but we had to. We just needed that second field. If we had 3 fields, that'd be optimum. We could do the tournament in a shorter time frame, Thursday, Friday, Saturday kind of idea, and then wrap it up, and it'd be better for everyone. If we did just the exhibition tournaments, that'd also be good for everyone too. Players and parents getting their shifting time schedules around and that kind of thing. With both of those, the house league play, the rep league play, and then the tournaments, we wanted to point out that it does draw a lot of people into Wingham. We have players coming from Brussels, the Blythe, this north of Blythe area. Teeswater has played with us this year. We get Lucknow players. Just a lot of players coming from outside of our community into Wingham. When we set up tournaments or we give prizes during the season, like we did at the U8 tournament that we ran this year, it really boosts the economy, we think, in downtown Wingham, and we look forward to doing that more so if we have more fields that we can host more tournaments here. We're trying to get along with, or get into the Muskrat Festival and have some kind of exhibition tournaments at those older age groups, U14, U16, U18, because no one else is doing that right now. Seaforth had initially done tournaments at U14, U16, but because of the loss of manpower and the lack of availability of referees, they've declined the last 2 years. So we are a town that's big enough with players. We have a lot of adult reps that actually can rep the older age groups and don't mind doing it. So we were really looking forward to, once we have enough fields that are good enough, that we can boast more of those tournaments. And once we become OSA affiliated with that Stratford League, we hope to get teams from outside of the local drawing area coming this way, because there's always teams from the Kitchener, Waterloo area, the London area, and North of Owen Sound, those areas that will look forward to coming to a tournament in Wingham. So that's our hopes and plans for the near future. I think I've covered everything. I brought some guys from our executive. They can fill in some holes if I forgot something. Or you could ask some questions if you have anything. I think I've basically covered everything.
You say 3 fields, you want 3 fields in the Wingham area.
Yeah, close proximity,
Yeah.
so that the team could go to one field, and then if they lose, they go to loser brackets and then play at another field. And then,
Right in the-
yeah, and then double knockout tournaments mean that they would come to the main field even if they won again. That's how we ran the
Yep.
16 tournament this year, but we had to stagger the nights. So if you won, then you come back the next night. And it just took a lot of the nights during the week. And teams were playing with 9 players, 10 players, because they couldn't field a proper sized team.
Just a couple things. Have you approached the school to see if, I think I seen there was going to be 2 soccer fields on the new Maitland school to do it?
Because of the grading of the land, and I think Pat and I were talking about that, they have the space to put two regulation size fields on there. But because of the grading, they have to put a kitty corner instead of lengthwise right to the edge of the property, and it only fits one field.
So they won't be having, any, you approach them to use that field?
Yep.
Do you have, and they're okay with that?
Our intent is like from the principal, though, Alice McDowell has said she doesn't see that being a problem.
And then the other thing is, and it's something that's been brought to my attention quite often, is the total contribution of North Huron is $3,560 minus Morris Turnberry. If I can refer to Pat, do we get anything from Morris Turnberry for doing this work? Where I'm gonna go with this is the fields you're using down there are actually in Morris Turnberry. They're not in North Huron. They're not on our land, so I'm just a little confused why we're paying all, if we're paying all the expenses to do this, or.
Well, I think just going back in time, it was probably, when Galbraith Field was built, it was probably the town of Wingham at the time, and it was just natural that Wingham would take on the management and maintenance of that field. I think we have planned in the fall to have a meeting with Nancy, Gary, and myself, and some counselors, just to go over what Morris Turnberry is giving us as a grant towards recreation. I don't know if you remember, we had that conversation. We were waiting for numbers, and soccer as a group, as an example, who's provided those numbers for us. How many North Huron, how many Morris Turnberry, how many other municipalities are kids coming from for those activities? So at this time, there's no money directed towards the soccer field from Morris Turnberry, but it could become part of that conversation with Morris Turnberry at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for clarifying, 'cause I wasn't sure. How that worked either.
Sure. So, I just wanted to thank Fred tonight for coming here and explaining the field. So I think that will help council when we come to that next step and have a conversation about how many fields we need. You can probably see that, you know, having 340 kids in any activity in our area is phenomenal. And I know that Fred and his team of executive should be commended for having that many kids in motion in our community and being active. It's phenomenal. So thank you very much. And I think council, if you want to consider all of this at budget time and in our conversations with Morris Turnberry, I just wanted to make sure everybody had all the background information from Wingham Minor Soccer.
Just one other question. I'm wondering about the Blythe fields. Is that too far away to consider as part of your area, or?
Blythe is their own, like they have all their teams, and they have a lot of players too. So that field is really, or both those fields, sorry, the Spartan fields are used to max capacity.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Dave?
Have you considered the lower soccer field at the park, at the Blythe campground?
In Blythe.
Yeah.
I know that it used to be a soccer field, but perhaps since we're lucky tonight that Dave Cook is in the audience and in the gallery, can you maybe answer to that, when that was used?
It's not regulation.
What's that?
It's not regulation.
So it's not large enough for
That's
regulation
part of the
games?
reason why they moved in the first
It
place.
used to be really rocky too.
Well, it's rough, I mean, it's.
I played
it's
there.
not what,
The old adult teams used to play there initially before the Spartan fields.
but they basically won't use it because it's not regulation.
Thanks.
That's all.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to your fellow members that help out with the different programs and teams that you're working with. And thank you very much for having a very strong, active group.
Well, thanks for your time. It's good. Thanks, Pat.
Okay, moving to business arising from previous meetings. The Staff report on the electrical vehicle charging. And
I'd speak to this one a bit. The Wingham BIA, there's a strong desire to have this in the town hall or in the central town to use up in this area to create more activity for their shops. I find it interesting, it was $8,000 to put it in, that's quite a variation of the costing. Did we have a place along here that we were thinking?
Were you part of
Well,
it?
where they set it up to demonstrate it was right in front of the town hall, and there is a spot there that could be turned into a green spot for charging. And there's a electrical box right close. Might be something to consider.
So I'll put a motion forward that we accept this and put it there then?
Um,
Can we do that?
We can look into it further
Well-
and see if there is any other spaces that would be.
Because that actually space was mentioned as the preferred space.
Well, and it does look like it could be a space that would be.
So you want me to withdraw that motion if they
Uh,
want to?
No, one of the things that we're really looking for, and before we have a motion as to where it goes, I think that we have to make a decision on, for getting it, are we buying it outright,
Oh,
or are we leasing, where we have the full 5 years warranty. And it's a while ago that I did the figures, but I was thinking that it was only $120 or $140 difference in the long run. And with the leasing, that you have the warranty, full warranty on everything, so that might be a cheap $140, just to lease it and do the buyout at the end of the 5 years.
is it cheaper with the buyout?
No, it was 140 more.
Just 140, yeah, okay.
That's what I'm remembering, but it's quite a while ago that I went over it. And I thought it was just interesting going through, okay, what is the cost of the lease in comparison to buying it outright? I didn't see anything where there was the full warranty for 5 years on it if you bought it outright. Was it 2 or 3 years possibly? I don't know.
I think I seen 3 too, I think I seen 3 years.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that was one of the reasons that personally, if I was doing it, I would probably lease it for 5 years rather than buy it outright. Where it's good for 5 years, it's maybe a good deal to buy it then. Rob?
Well, one of the things that I've been looking for, perhaps I've missed it, is the process that's used for people getting the service. That is, do we need a place for people to line up, for example, while one car is being charged? Where do the waiting cars sit? Is it necessary for us in any case to manage this process, deciding who's next in line or whatever? Just having it parked out in front of the town hall doesn't seem like a very realistic management process. So I'd just like to know more about what kind of space is needed and how is the process managed?
Good question.
That
That's a good question.
basically, my understanding is that a normal parking space is what's needed, and the configuration of where you put the charger and the length of the cord. If we were to go out front here, we could put the charger basically at the split between the 2 parking spots in front of Town Hall, and it would work for either of them. We may have to look at 1 hour parking or 1 hour charge for, and it'd probably have to be on a first come, first served basis. Dave?
I wonder why, if you were doing it, why you wouldn't put in more than 1 cord so that 2 or 3 cars or even 4 cars can charge at the same time. Because very often when people are traveling, they may travel in pairs or in groups, and if Brock lines up to charge his car and I have to wait for an hour and a half, then that ties me up for 3 hours, and to get a charge, so, which may be good because I'll spend money, but I wonder if one unit is sufficient.
Okay, that's interesting discussion. Councillor Daly.
I think we all agreed to start with one charge and see how it works out. I think it'd be great to put it in front of the town hall to prove that we are interested in our green track, our foot track. But good point, winter maintenance. Would that become a problem, or is it a shielded cover, or do we have any idea?
Just from the model that they had on display, it's not a shield.
Which I never seen, so you're looking at problems with,
Well, it's just like having anything else on the sidewalk in the winter. Have to make sure that it's off if you're far enough, it's still accessible.
Basically, there can be it's a fairly solid shell around it, but it would probably be in that same vicinity as what some parking meters were. Dave?
Would it not make more sense to put it on the side of the building and have people park right beside the building, or put it on the side of the police station? And have people park there and less likely to be vandalized, and it's off the main street. And if you put it on the main street and I decide that I want to come into town, there's nobody parking there, I'm gonna park there with my gas vehicle, and then somebody's gonna wait 2 hours for me to move my vehicle. I think it should go on the side of the building for vandalism purposes. And snowplows.
Right.
I agree with Councillor Reach too, for not having stuff out Main Street. I don't know how pretty looking this thing is, and having cords and sidewalk and everything else. Put it in a municipal parking lot, or by the library, or by the police station. Not bad. Sign up where it is.
Well, one of the things that I had figured, one of the places we definitely would want signs is on 86 coming into town from both the east and the west. And that if it's in the vicinity of town hall, that we can say, you know, straight up Main Street to town hall. That if it's definitely is the thought of having it in the vicinity around town hall. Kathy?
I'm sorry. The question in tonight is whether we're going to purchase it or lease it.
Yeah.
I think that's what the direction that staff is looking for tonight, not really the location of it. So maybe if we could get council to look at the purchase versus a lease arrangement, and then have staff look into possible locations of where it would be best located.
And if council has some suggestions of where to locate it, then definitely bring them forward to staff.
The only thing that I was going to note too, though, is if you might want to take into consideration is that the main street is always plowed 24/7 and weekends. The municipal parking lots inside the building are not. So it could be a problem if you put it in the municipal parking lot or against one of our municipal buildings, because there may not be snow cleared from that overnight or weekends.
Just-
Donna?
Sorry. Just on the lease versus purchase, so Gary's been dealing with these folks, so I haven't been able to ask him the questions, and as you pointed out, there's very little difference between the lease versus the outright purchase. If you took the purchase price plus the additional 3-year warranty, it's still a bit cheaper to buy it outright. So whether the company would throw in an extra year, so that's 4 years warranty on a purchase versus 5-year warranty on a lease. I don't know if we could approach them and say, you know, why can't, for the purchase price, we have a 5-year warranty for that price, or see what that would be. An extra 1/3 of the $199 would be $66, and that still is cheaper to go that way than to go with the lease
Yeah.
route, to get a 5-year warranty if they'll give it to us. So, and then the other thing is that I wasn't able to ask Gary is, he talks about freight on the purchase. So I don't know if freight is included on the lease. So I think we need to ask a few more questions, but it's, you know, very, very little difference. So my thought would be to move this along. If we could get a motion, your decision, you're gonna get one regardless of which way you're gonna go. So if you would authorize us to go ahead and implement the acquisition of one at the cheapest price, then we can ask the company those two questions, whether they would give us the 5-year warranty on the purchase and if freight is included. Because on the lease, they also say a monthly leasing fee. And I don't know if Gary got that information. I don't know what that fee is. But overall, it's still gonna be so, you know, we're probably talking a couple $100 difference one way or the other. Does that make sense if we go ahead and get it? Or we can ask these questions of Gary when he gets back and then go forward.
Councillor Vaughn?
I'd make the motion that we have staff make the decision as to which way is most feasible for acquiring this device and decide whether we lease or purchase.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, further discussion on it?
Just one quick one. Is the police station, is it clean 24/7? Because it's used 24/7? So that'd be the obvious place then.
I have to agree with Kathy, it's not set out to pick a spot tonight.
No, just had the questions to move forward.
Okay. As to giving staff direction for, is it the cheapest in your motion? Or at the end of 5 years, that it would be the cheapest, or
There may be other factors that will come out of this fact finding, that maybe the cheapest way is not the most effective way. I think that we could let staff make that decision, whether it's either purchase or lease, but the motion is to go ahead and acquire the
and
equipment.
most effective,
Yes.
okay, most cost effective. Okay, just wanted that clear in my own mind, and so everybody's ready for the vote. All those in favor? Carried.
And we'll report back which way.
Very good, thank you.
Okay.
And we had planning advisory minutes. Motion to approve them. Or Kathy?
At the last council meeting, if you remember, council was presented with a zoning bylaw amendment for Montgomery bus line property at East Malinois. At that time, you did first and second reading of the bylaw and deferred third reading of the bylaw for further wording from Sally McMullen, our planner, on the definition of commercial use out there, commercial motor vehicle uses. You'll find there is a revised bylaw in your package tonight, which you will consider later on in your package for third reading. Under section 5 of that bylaw, Sally has included further explanation and wording of a commercial motor vehicle. And Sally provided us with that wording, and so that you can consider that bylaw to that amendment tonight and give it third reading. What we need a motion for tonight is council needs to decide if this revision warrants another circulation of the for this zoning bylaw amendment, and it is Sally's recommendation that it is so minor in nature that further circulation is not necessary. So I need a motion from council tonight, if they agree with Sally's recommendation, that to pass a resolution in accordance with section 3417 of the Planning Act, that no further notice is needed for this zoning bylaw amendment.
I'll put that motion forward.
Thank you.
Councillor Campbell seconds. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, moving to department reports. The health and safety is there for information. July council meeting attendance sheets for Kathy. Moving to Director of Corporate Services, Deputy Clerk, staff report on childcare fee increases, Kathy.
Okay, in your package tonight, I have included a staff report and recommendation. September 1st of every year, for many years now, we have considered a 50-cent increase across our fee schedule at the Child Care Center to our daily rates. And I have included a proposed fee schedule that would come into place effective September 1st, 2013 for council's consideration. And if council is happy with that increase, we would put that in place September 1st. And come January, when we revise our fees and services bylaw, we would include this new fee schedule in that bylaw.
Frank,
I would make that motion.
I'll second.
Callahan and Leach. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Okay, moving to point 4, Director of Finance. Donna?
So at long last, we finally have this Live Lions Club, these two pieces of property resolved. So as you remember, we started out several years ago on trying to get these two pieces of property where they didn't have to pay taxes, and at one point the municipality owned the one piece, which was transferred over to the Blythe Lions Club. Anyway, after a long time, we finally have the, you had passed a bylaw to exempt both of these pieces from taxation. We received notification from MPAC that that was effective May 22nd, 2012, and will apply to 13 and 14. And so in 2014, no further tax bills will be generated on either of these two properties. So on some of it, we can share, for some of the years, we can share the write-off with the school boards and the county, and going back further than that, it would be at the full municipal expense. We do budget each year for this type of thing, and we have allocation in the 2013 budget to write this off and clean this up. So the amounts are there. The one rule number would have a write-off of $8,368.41, and the other one would be $3,476.27. And someday in the future, we still have the lawn tennis piece to deal with. So are there any questions on that?
I'll make a motion that we write off the outstanding taxes on the properties in question.
I'll second.
Councillor Biden seconds. Councillor Campbell?
Are we still working on the other section of this land?
Yes.
Now, we're still working on it, we haven't
The
just...
lawn tennis?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll go back and tackle that now that we've got these two
Okay.
pieces cleared up, so.
Don?
And just to do with that lawn, that could be a potential well site for Blythe, so just keep that in mind when you're delving into that.
Okay, thank you.
Ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Moving to point 5, Public Works. Kelly?
In my department report, I just brought forward what each ward is doing and if there's any questions.
One question, model number or horsepower of that four-wheel drive you're looking at?
But the second part is that I'm looking for a motion to move forward with the purchase of the tractor from Roberts Farms equipment.
I'll make that a motion.
Campbell, Councillor Campbell and Councillor Hallahan move that, and second it. Any discussion?
So Kelly, we're trading in 2 tractors for 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what about replacing the other? You'll replace the other one in the future?
We're replacing the one from the New Holland that's in service right now, that's doing roadside in East Wallinosh and winter snow removal, and the old Ford tractor that's been used in Blythe just for loading sand. Now that we have the new tractor in Blythe,
You don't
it's
need
no,
it.
no, it's no longer needed.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Point 6, Director of Recreation and Facilities. Paul?
Yeah, if you'll indulge me, I actually, before I get into my report, wanted to show a quick video. This is on YouTube, and it's just sort of extending on Reed Vincent's report on the RC Jet Rally. If you don't mind, I'll just take a second to set that up. Sleep.
Works good.
Fine, Marty.
Everybody awake now? Just gonna wait for this to find it. So while it's just finding it, the RC Jet Rally was a huge success. There were 52 pilots registered at the event, 205 cars paid for parking, so that could have been 5 people, 3 people, whatever, in a car, so that was great attendance, especially since it was actually not terrific weather for the event, and they had a successful turnout. On Saturday, the food tent ran out of food. They just didn't even have enough, exceeded our anticipated attendance. And then on Sunday, it was also very busy at the food tent. So somebody from the Jet Rally has put this on YouTube, and it was brought to my attention, so I thought I would share it with people here today. Okay, it's not showing, is it? Just a sec. What's going on? Anybody want to provide technical support, they can jump in. Why it's not playing. Any idea? Okay.
Nice music.
Yeah, it's great music. It's even better when you can see the whole video. Okay, here we go.
It would help you, Pat.
Okay. I know. I don't know why it's not. Ready to reload it? If it doesn't work, then I'll just give up. But I can see the photos are there, it's just not, can you ask me to find it again? Okay. We'll move on. It was a great video. Oh, you got it. Thanks, Trevor. There we go. Okay. So that was just a short. It took me longer to set it up than to play it, but it was, that was neat. There's a few videos actually from the event on YouTube. That one was kind of, if you've never seen the event, it gives you a bit of a taste of it. The first report in the agenda is the Blythe Olympia, and the manager of Blythe Facilities, Dave Cook, is here, so I'm just going to ask you to come on up to the table there, Dave, because this has really been Dave's project. You can have a seat if you want instead of at the podium. So he's here to also help answer questions. So background is that the ice resurfacer in Blythe originally was purchased when the arena was renovated and donated by Sparlings Propane. And it was due to have, every 5 years we send them in to have sort of a $5,000 maintenance overhaul on them back to the manufacturer. And so we had budgeted to do that this year. And Dave sort of hesitated before doing that and took a look at the age of the machine, what it was valued at as a trade-in, how much new ones cost, and really assessed the situation before we spent the $5,000 and our machine would continue to depreciate in value. So the recommendation that we're looking at is to purchase a new Olympia or ice resurfacer for the Blythe Arena, and once again Sparlings has come forward with a large donation to help offset the costs. We have money in reserves to cover the balance and in the budget, and unfortunately there's only one person to go and ask for a quote. There's only two manufacturers of ice resurfacers, and that is Zamboni, which is a name everybody's aware of, and Olympia, which is made by a company called Resurfice. And Resurfice is located in Elmira, and they really have the market captured in this whole region. And so Zamboni, a fantastic company, a good machine, but when we approached them about bidding or offering a quote on a machine in our area, they respectively declined, because unless we're buying 10, they can't maintain them. They can't have somebody locally maintaining one machine. So they had declined to provide a quote. So we're also just informing council that we're using the negotiated method to purchase the new ice resurfacer because there are no other suppliers to go to. So I don't know, Dave, if you have anything else to add, if you want to go over the financials. It's on the second page. The purchase price is $94,840. The trade-in value currently is $32,000. Sparlings has generously offered a donation of $24,140, and for that they would have the opportunity once again put their name and logo on the machine. In reserves we have $33,700 plus the $5,000 we were going to save or pay for the maintenance, puts the balance at zero that we need to go back into the budget to acquire the Olympia today. Dave, do you have anything else to add to that? That's a bit of a summary.
The biggest thing with our machine is that it's in good shape, and that's, they'll tell you to sell or
a trade at 10 years, and we didn't. But when I talked to them, they said that they would honor their 10-year trade-in value with ours because of it being, well, they know how it's maintained, and it's in good shape. They said the salesman, of course, he said, if you're going to do something, now's probably your best trade-in value time. He says next year, you know, you're looking at 12, 13, 14, 15 years with your machine getting that age. He said it's hard for them to resell it. He said at 10 years, or when it's as good a shape as ours, that's basically why we're getting that much in trade-in.
Councillor Campbell?
Are we guaranteed to have that this year? Like, I think
Christmas.
last time we had put our sign getting it, we were.
Christmas.
Christmas, okay.
Councillor Bailey?
$33,000 we're pulling out of reserves. What reserves are we pulling with that?
The reserves that we've been putting away for the past few years towards a new Olympia purchase, or a new ice resurfacer purchase. So I don't know what that account is called. It says it's Olympia, and we keep putting money in as part of our operating budget from each arena, $5,000 towards that each year. And we still end up, after this, having, I think it's $10,000 left there, because we know that in another 5 or 6 years, another one will be needed to be purchased. Sorry. That was Trevor's fault that time.
Right.
I would make a motion to proceed with the purchase.
Okay, Councillor Vaughan seconds. Further discussion? Right.
Well, I'm thinking too, with Sparling's propane donating $24,000 too, I think the time is right for, it's a good time.
Well, Steve said that he didn't know where it would be in 10 years, where
Right.
he would be in 10 years.
Okay. Well, it is an opportunity that
Yes.
we've been offered as of right now to make a decision on, so. All those in favor of the motion? Carried.
Yeah. I think we just need that second motion as well, to transfer out of reserves for Donna to do that for the budget.
Okay, Ray and Dave Reach to transfer from reserves. To make this happen. All those in favor? Carried.
The next report is regarding the Wingham Ballpark. And in your package, there's a bit of an update on the progress of the grant that we received from Libro and the progress on that project, outlining the timing, the public meeting that was held, and some of the wishes of the people who use the park were all considered. The tender document went out today and is available for pickup. I've already had some calls about questions on it, so we're hoping to get many people interested in bidding on that project. Last year, with the anticipation of knowing down the road we would have to improve that ballpark, we had money in the operating budget that we put into reserves towards ballpark improvements in Wingham. That was $5,000, and since we're in this process now, we're looking to take that money out of reserves and assign it to this project and use it if the bids come in exceeding the amount that we are getting from Libro. And we've also received to date about $1,800 in private donations, and those are still coming in from service clubs and user groups. But until all of those are in and we get the quotes, we're not quite sure where we're going to land. And we want permission to pull that money out of reserves for this purpose. That's the first question on the table. The second part is the youth group is very interested and put the out there to all the users that attended the meeting to rename Riverside Ballpark Libro Field. So Riverside Park really runs the whole span of all of the Wingham Park that runs along Riverside, Maitland River. So basically, from the trailer park all the way to the ball diamonds is called Riverside Park. And so it's always just called Riverside Ballpark. And they feel that this donation from Libro, along with their contribution that they made a few years ago to Optimus Ballpark, that they want to recognize that huge contribution in this community and rename it Libro Field. Libro has not requested this, but the youth group has asked that we take this to council for consideration. So there's 2 questions on the table, and that's, if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer.
So the first question is authorizing 5,000 could be taken from the reserve for it, if needed.
Make that a motion if that's what you need.
Okay. Did you have a question, Councillor Bailey?
Actually, I did, would we maybe not be better to wait and see what the quotes come in at, rather than have that out there first?
Yeah, and I guess because the August meeting is moved to the 26th, it just leaves us very short time if we have to wait till that date to then hire and then get the project started. Because in order for us to get it finished in September, we need to award and get that project started right after Labor Day. So if we don't have that money released until the August 26th date, then it just slows everything down. So I can guarantee that if the money is not required, if the bids all come in under that, with the money we need, we're gonna put that back into reserve. Because as I explained in the future considerations, the ball users and groups like the Hitman Pool Tournaments and the Maitland, or the Muskrat Festival, all want to see a pavilion built down in that area, and we would continue to put that money back into reserves for that project. So it's only if we're going to need it to make up that difference, and we're hoping private donations will come in and all the needs will be met, but we just want that as a backup so that we can move forward on the project.
Deputy?
I'll make a motion that we authorize the taking of the $5,000 from township reserves into the Riverside Ballpark if needed.
We already have a motion.
We already had a motion.
Oh, we already had it.
Did anybody second it? No. Did you
Not
second it?
second.
Okay, I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Carried.
So the second question is the request to rename Riverside Ballpark Libro Field. So it would be Libro Field located in Riverside Park. We would have Optimus Field and Libro Field.
I'd like to make a comment on this, but maybe I should wait until there's a motion.
You will make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Reach and Bailey to the motion. Go ahead.
I think we should not give naming rights to any firm or individual in perpetuity. There should be a time set on it. We have the name of Westcast attached to our complex, and that was a very generous donation that led to that use of their name. But that facility has been costing us a fortune every year ever since, and there's no further contribution coming from that firm. So it seems to me that we should not be any further using a naming privilege in perpetuity. So I would, if we make this decision, my suggestion is that we put a definite time on it, and that at that time that the name be either renewed by them on a certain contribution, or made available to other firms that might wish to contribute to the park.
Okay. Councillor Campbell?
I think there should be a plaque put up to recognize Libro, but as far as naming that, or park that name, I think we're setting ourselves up for other people to come in and make contributions that maybe we as council can't, but because we've started this, we will continue, we would almost be obligated to continue
Councillor Bailey?
But actually, it's not Libro that's asking for this, it's
I
the
know.
children that ask for it, that did all the legwork.
Well, I say a plaque could be in support of what they have done, but not necessarily to name the park after them.
Councillor Ward?
I'm not opposed to using a name and encouraging people to invest in the community and get recognition for it. But I think there should be a time when, so that's slightly different viewpoint, but it's up for discussion.
And I guess the reality, as council of property of the municipality, we do have a certain number of rights as to changing names at the pleasure of any council. So that, but
I completely understand where Brock is coming from, and, you know, if you wanted to put a 10 or 15-year time limit on that, I mean, the life expectancy of the fencing is probably 15 years at least, so you could sort of at that point say the contribution is over and it's a 15-time name period. It's almost similar to, we've just allowed Sparlings to put their name on our Olympia in recognition of their contribution. And I think that partnerships with our corporations in our community are one way that we can reduce the cost of upgrading our facilities and contribute. And it's happening. If you go to a lot of the cities and walk through their facilities, they say right on them, you know, the Rogers Center, or, you know, this room donated by. And it's a way that the taxpayers' dollar goes further, and it allows us to upgrade our facilities. And like I said, Libro hasn't asked for this, so it's completely up to you. It's not condition of getting the money, but it's for your consideration.
I think that the kids that went out and approached Libro and secured the funding and so on, and did all that work, I think that for us to recognize that contribution and to suggest or to honor their wishes, number one, gives recognition to the kids and also shows appreciation to the work that the kids did in getting the funding from Libro, and it also recognizes Libro for the contribution. And you bring up Westcast, the community center, and Westcast did put a lot of dollars into it initially, but in the years since, a lot of Westcast employees still use that facility and use it regularly. And I think if you were to take the name away from them, then it's sort of like a kick in the teeth. So I stand by my motion to rename the ballpark to Libro Field.
further discussion?
Just one more, it says Libro, money was raised through a Libro grant and private donations. So are we opening ourselves up here again? There's more than just Libro in this, there is private donations into us.
When the letters were written to the different organizations requesting funding, at that time we did explain that there would be signage at the park recognizing every donation. So Libro grant, the Lions, the Legion, Wing of Minor Ball, all of those would be on a smaller sign to recognize their efforts, put on the fencing, put on a dugout, so that that history is captured. But this was a request to rename the field. Hopefully that answers your question. I mean, the other field is called Optimus Park, and there's no Wingham Optimus Club. But back in the day, I'm assuming at some point they were significant contributors to that park. When it was first erected, Kathy, you may know that history.
Well, they started out with Optimus being the one up.
The Josephine one?
Yeah, Josephine, the smaller ball diamond there, that, and then when they went down there and moved and redeveloped, it just retained its name.
Anything else? Good. I definitely see your point, Brock, on that we maybe should be looking at some of the properties owned by the municipality, and are they still properly named? I don't think for identification of this, the one field in comparison to Optimus Field, having Libro Field would be any detriment at all. In fact, it might make somebody from out of town reassured as to which field they were going if the second field was really named, rather than just saying, well, it's a ball diamond in Riverside Park. That I feel personally that it's probably warranted, possibly to reflect the size of the commitment that they have for a period of time anyway.
Yes, I'm not opposed to the naming of the park, Libro Park, as long as we put a time limit on it and let's say 10 years or something to that. So that would, I'll move an amendment to the motion that that condition be added.
Second. The problem with that, Brock, is what if 10 years from now, nobody steps forward? 5 years now, I think it'd be just best to let it go, and if another company somewhere down the road, whether it be the new door company or something, step forward at that time, you would approach it at that time and have a good look at it. Just saying that it's over in 10 years, and we're gonna revert it back to Riverside Park, then you get into a situation where first and second and third generation are used to going to the Libro Park, and now we're gonna change it to something else. Unless there's a good financial reason too, I'm not sure you should really put any limit on it.
Well, but in the past, we have put no limit on it, and we're still naming a facility that is not supported by the
But
firm.
supposing Royal Home decided, or some company here, I shouldn't use the name, but some company decided to give us $250,000 on there, I'm sure we'd take a good look at that building and say, well, I see where Brock's going with this, it should be named da-da-da-da rather than the West Cast Center. I think I would approach that at that point.
And that, if I may, that I'm going to make the comment, as each of these things have a major redevelopment, that may be the time for council to consider a name change, rather than a specific term of years.
That's fine. Well, we have no seconder to the amendment, so it dies.
Any more discussion, or do I call the question? All those in favor of the motion? Carried.
Next report.
Okay.
The town hall project is progressing and work is on schedule. And on the August 26th meeting, I'm planning to have a full update with the consultant and the contractor here to answer all questions. We recently have discovered a structural problem with the bell tower, and this needs to be addressed. And because it is structural, we require an engineer to look at the problem and report back. We need an engineer's report on the structural integrity of the bell tower. And I would like for council to allocate funding for that. We have a facility emergency fund in the facilities budget, and $20,000 every year. And we have not used really any of that yet, but to use that money, I require a council motion to apply it to a project. The range of cost for an engineer could be 5 to 15,000. I have no idea yet until we consult with some of them to get some pricing. But I would anticipate it's 10 to 15,000 for the cost. I would like a motion to pull that money from the facility fund that's in our budget this year, to hire an engineer, to report back to this council on what they find and recommend, if there is an issue, what they recommend that we do to fix that problem.
I'll make that motion. I think it's, we have no choice, really.
A second.
Deputy Reeve Reach, seconds. Discussion on the motion? Well, right,
I just have one question. So Thorough can't do this part, eh?
Sorry?
Tar.
Oh, Tor?
Tor.
Tar, I mean.
No, Tor is not an engineer, and it's structural, so it requires an engineer's report. But he will work closely with the engineer to provide direction and hear the feedback and help us interpret that information.
Councillor Vaughn?
And I think it's important to have an objective assessment of the situation rather than going with the existing contractor. We need an outside opinion on what is needed and what the problem is.
Anything else? That if it's structural, a structural engineer is what I believe we need, so that, all those in favor of the motion? Carried.
The town hall, Memorial Hall facility condition assessment. This is a project that the Campaign 1419 has looked to the township to complete as part of their campaign. So in our 2013 budget, we have put, I think it's 30,000 aside for building condition assessments with the intent to match that again next year to look at facility condition assessments in 2014. With this fantastic initiative by the community to look at Memorial Hall and the 1419 campaign, it's pushed our planning on this just a little bit earlier, but still within our strategic planning. So what we're looking to do, what we did was through the negotiated request for proposal process, we talked to 4 different consultants and discussed with them what their proposal would be to do a facility condition assessment on that facility, understanding what the 1419 campaign project was all about. And those proposals were then presented to that committee, and they have a recommendation to ask that we, as a municipality, hire Tor Dingman and Laura Dent as the 2 consultants to work on the facility condition assessment for the municipality and that committee. The bid that they brought in was at $13,000, and the other groups ranged from $13,500 to $17,000. It wasn't just the pricing that the committee preferred, it was also their approach, that they were going to get user input and their approach to the project that was preferred. Additionally, as you'll see in the report, we are conducting a roof consulting project, a roof consultation, which was already planned for this year, as well as the hazardous material assessment, which was already planned for this year and budgeted for. So the motion is to retain Tor Dingman and Laura Dent to provide service to complete the facility condition assessment for Blythe Memorial Hall in the amount of $13,000 in support of the Campaign 1419 project. In future considerations, there's also Huron Geomatics, which was presented to the committee as an opportunity to provide drawings and data about the current building. And I think we would like to come back and present that proposal at the August 26th meeting for further consideration, unless council feels they have enough information on that from speaking to people on the campaign. But at this point, we want to initiate the facility condition assessment by using Tor Dingman and Laura Dent. That is staff's recommendation. That's what I wanted to present for discussion.
Councillor Bailey?
I'd like to see this put over till the August 26th meeting. I'd like to have some further discussion on this one.
I'll second that motion.
Deputy Reeve?
Through you, Reeve, Vincent to Pat, what's the timeline that the 1419 committee are working on towards? Are they anxious to get going and get, like, what, to have work done this winter? Or if we wait another 2 weeks, are we just holding everything up?
I don't think it is a huge inconvenience to wait the 2 weeks at this stage. It's 20 days. The project is massive. It requires a lot of information. Waiting is not going to hold this project up. Additionally, it would be even difficult to begin the project while shows are still going on. So I don't think it's a detriment to the project to wait if that's what council is asking or desires.
Councillor Bodden?
I would like some indication of what we're going to do in the meantime, in 2 weeks. How are we going to be any further ahead in terms of knowledge of the situation, or what questions are we going to have answered by the time we meet on the 26th? Otherwise, just putting it off for no reason, it's not a very good reason.
Councillor Bailey?
I believe that should be an in-camera discussion because it affects
It affects parties.
people. Identifiable people.
Oh.
So there's no motion right now, is there?
Yes, there is.
Oh, there was a motion, I apologize, I thought,
There's the motion to.
table,
to
right.
Table,
yep.
till the 26th. Deputy Reeve?
I'll vote against the motion. I don't see any value in waiting another 20 days. We've gone through the consulting and the bidding process, and we have the best price. If they can get started and do some of the preliminary groundwork, then we're that much further ahead.
I was just gonna say, for procedure, if there is something that Bernie wants to share in camera, perhaps we can do that tonight in camera, or not, or, I'm not sure of the procedure, I'm just trying to help it move along.
I think that would help, yes.
I don't know if we can, because
No.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
No, that was-
We are not having an in-camera session, or are we?
We have no in-camera session scheduled for tonight.
Okay.
But, I guess I'll call the question then, as to delaying till the 26th to make a decision on the consultant that we would use towards Memorial Hall. All those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? Tie vote, so the motion is lost. 3 to 3, there's a tie vote. And unless you have a majority in the vote, the motion is lost.
I'm a little confused. I believe that the mayor was only supposed to break a tie.
No, that's not
No.
true. Reeve always votes.
It's amazing.
One of the very principles of Rovark's rules is the chair of the meeting still has the same voting as any other individual. Okay. Deputy Reed.
I'll make a motion that we hire the Thor Dingman and Laura Dent to do the project and consulting on the project.
Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Pat?
I would prefer at this point that we, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, can we table it? And I will ask someone from the 1419 campaign to perhaps better represent their wishes to council at the 26th meeting. It was their wishes. We've taken this to them. They've analyzed all of the assessments that were brought forward. This is who they have picked. But if council is feeling that they need more information, or half of council is, I don't object to waiting for that process. But I don't know what, Gary's not here to correct us on procedure, so I'll turn to Neil for that.
That
Well-
motion was just presented and lost.
That one, but the new one's on the table now.
In many ways, it's just the reverse of the other, and I'm not sure we will settle anything and vote. Councillor Vaughn.
I move that we table this matter till the next meeting, which is August 26th.
We have to get the previous motion withdrawn. Or no, that's tabling,
The
okay.
tabling motion takes
Tabling.
precedent.
Do I have a seconder for the tabling motion? Councillor Campbell. That subject is held till the 26th.
I think we're uncomfortable with tie votes
Yeah.
in deciding an issue as important as this. So
Yes.
I think we're at a good point now.
Okay, thank you.
We're in the last motion too. Motion for that.
Okay, moving to point 7, water and wastewater, Don?
Okay, the environmental assessment for water upgrades is moving very long. We're hoping to have the report ready in early September to post for public comment on that. So hopefully next council meeting we'll have some more information, details of the report. Moving to number 2, so we're kind of working towards networking a lot of the data entry, the manuals, and data loggers and that kind of thing. And actually, we're quite looking forward to it. It's going to clean up a lot of duplication and a number of copies of things that are floating around that all need to be updated. This should make efficient use of our time by just having to update one set of things. Okay, and moving to the Wingham Water. So we are on the last inspection of the Wingham standpipe. There's some not structural cracks, but there are some spalding and so forth that need repaired on the roof. So looking to get that done, as well as updating some of the safety issues like Davit, rescue Davit, and a rescue plan. There's only 2 suppliers that I know of and have asked other people, and there's only 2 that will qualify to do this type of work. So I've asked the second supplier to provide a quote, and as far as I know, he's still going to give me a quote, but I haven't got it yet, so I'm hoping we will get the second quote. Anyway, out of the lowest of the 2 quotes, I was hoping that we could get a motion to go with the negotiated method versus 6 years and whatnot, 3 suppliers.
Negotiated method of cost effective.
Yes.
Councillor Bailey, you are making that
I'm making
motion?
the motion, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell seconds. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Carried.
Thank you. In the staff report regarding well 3 pump, a number of years ago, the motor burnt out on it, and there's a number of other issues surrounding the pump. So we had a pump that was not being utilized, and it had a low number of hours on it. And according to pump curves, everything was, it was going to be suitable to put in there, but in putting the pump in, it did not pump up to capacity, and we ended up having to modify it and to get it down so that it was within the service factor of the motor. So looking at some of the development, potential development in town here, what kind of brought it to a head. They use firm capacity calculations in order to define, excess capacity that you've got. But they use the lowest capacity well for that calculation. So with that pump up there, there's no firm capacities for development. It's not really an issue as far as practical use of it, because it meets the demand for all but a couple of days in the summer of higher use. But even that, at some point, it needs to be replaced at some point. So I was looking to get it replaced now. And the other thing was, we can put in the larger pump, but the key to that, we were getting some pretty serious demand charges with the larger pump. So this VFD, what it does is you actually just slow the pump down, and you can reduce the power consumption of it, and therefore reduce the demand, electrical demand charges. So it's an expensive thing up front, but over the long term, it would easily pay back. So that was how we want to control that pump and the energy management aspect of it. So if I could have a motion to go ahead and get quotations, and I have some budgetary quotations right now. I'd like to get some firm quotations, but it's going to end up with all the work combined to be approximately $35,000.
You are moving that,
Yeah.
Councillor Bailey?
Yeah.
Councillor Hallahan seconding? Okay, and that is the pump on well 3?
Yeah, well 3, yes. Replace the well pump.
Okay. Any discussion on that, Councillor Gordon? No. All those in favor of the motion? Carried. And that the water department, is that a motion to accept the report?
Yes, the last point.
I move that we accept the chief operator's report as presented.
Vauden and Bailey? Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay. How do you want to do this, Deputy Clerk? We're moving to point 8, Fire Department, and the official swearing in of our new Fire Chief, Director of Fire and Emergency Services.
There might be a few shots. That's fine.
chair here, there's one chair there, there's three there. Another chair here for someone.
That's okay. We're reading a little holding habit. That's how you do your mind.
Actually, I'm not going to do a reading.
Oh.
I, David Sparling, having been appointed as the Fire Chief, Director of Fire and Emergency Services for the Township of North Huron, do solemnly swear and declare that I do swear I will faithfully discharge the duties as a public servant, will observe and comply with the laws of Canada, Ontario, and the Corporation of the Township of North Huron, so help me God. I do swear that I will conduct the business of the Fire Department of North Huron and the Corporation of the Township of North Huron, abiding to the values and vision of the township, so help me God. I so swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors according to law, so help me God. And I make this solemn oath and declaration, believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath. David Sparling.
There. It's nice to have a fire chief fully appointed now. Thank you for your past dedication and your future promises.
Thank you.
Gary sticking in because I think Paul wants pictures in case
Thank you. The third council has a short list of things that the fire chief has put together. Is there any questions that any of council has with the page? Councilor Bailey?
Now, Mr. Sparling, on your first report here, I'm gonna let you off the hook.
Would I be able to say just a few words?
Certainly.
I'd just like to acknowledge the work of the selection committee throughout this process. Prior to North Huron hiring Chief Mintoff to assist the search and selection committee, another nearby municipality decided to go it on their own to select a new fire chief. The chief that was selected for this position put his personal business up for sale. He assumed his new role. 90 days subsequent to assuming his role, he concluded the chief's position and its requirements and his skill sets did not match, and there was not the best fit for him, the fire department, or the municipality, and he has subsequently resigned. I appreciate the rigor that Chief Mintoff and your committee brought to the table, and there was no doubt what was expected of me or any other candidate should we be chosen as chief. This is a big deal for me and my family, and I just want to thank you for your professionalism, so that I'm confident 90 days from now I'm probably comfortable with the fit in the new position. As well, we're all aware that John Black laid a great foundation, and it's a privilege for me, or it would have been a privilege for anyone else to build on that. In FD&H we use call signs, and John's call sign was Car 1. In John's honor, I have proposed, and FD&H has accepted, that we permanently retire that call sign. As such, I will continue with call sign Car 3, and Keith will continue with call sign Car 2. One other note, I spoke too soon. We had no notable fire incidents in July, but August 2nd we did have a structure fire in Wingham. The response reflected the training we've had this year. It's been an excellent year of training for our firefighters. The fire was noticed by a neighbor, which is usually not a good start to a structure fire. Our crews were able to contain the fire to the room of origin and to the attic space. And a very good day for our fire crews, a very good day for the homeowner, and a very good day for our training officers who witnessed their work in action. I believe you have the rest report there, and no question.
Councillor Campbell.
Just an acknowledgement, I'd like to acknowledge our fire chief's parents, sitting here in the audience tonight. And that's an honor for me to see you both sitting here.
Thank you, Grant. So that you're part of the team now.
And I'm told I get to sit with the ladies every council meeting.
Yeah. So that it's very nice having a really good news story, such as having you on staff now, so we'll move on with the meeting, with new business. Point one is that there is a letter from municipality of Morris Turnberry, Reed Plumbing Service, in conjunction with the Karen County Health Unit, as authorized under the authority of bylaw 1999. That sort of the short form is the Township of Morris Turnberry wants to be able to have their own inspector, feeling that with their own inspector they can get the inspections done in a far more reasonable time to allow people to move forward than currently is received from the Huron County Health Unit inspectors that do most of the other inspections. They basically would like support in principle, I think, for going that route.
I would like to see us, I don't think we need a motion for this, I'd like to see us send a letter of support to them on behalf of North Huron. I'd also like to see our CEO follow up with them on maybe possibly using their manpower. We have had discussion, we have had considerable complaint on the movement of the county, and I think that Morris Turnberry and North Huron again could join forces in something that would be quite feasible for both of us. So if I feel we have to have a motion, or can we just go ahead and send a letter?
It's better to have a motion
I'll
for
put a
the
motion-
letter.
I'll put a motion for it for that.
Councillor Hallahan seconds. All in favor of the motion? Carried. Did you have a
I was
discussion?
going to
point?
suggest that it also be sent to the county, that the letter be sent to the county and to the other municipalities. in
Mover and
North America.
seconder, agreeing with that as a friendly amendment?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, anything else that you want in the new business brought out for special attention? Possibly we should do something over point 4 anyway. Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, point 4, I think we should do away with the 2-hour parking limit for Bob and his son. It's a little tradition. Do we want a motion for that?
Yes.
Okay, I'll put a motion for it that we do away with the 2-hour parking limit for the mattress sale or Middleton's home furnishing.
I'll second that.
Councillor Biden seconds. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion? Carried.
Okay, the Glynn Family Memorial have requested that have the tent fee waived. I'll make a motion that we waive the tent fee for the Michael Glynn Memorial event on September 4th.
Councillor Hallahan says. Councillor Lyon.
I have a problem with this motion. I don't know the family, so any of my comments do not relate to the family or to the person who's being memorialized. But it seems to me that this is not something that we should make a habit of. We need a policy on these waivers. For example, there is no one that we can direct a check to refund, because it's going to 3 unnamed, unidentified charities. The organizers of the event have already paid the fee, so that is already transacted. This becomes something that I think goes way beyond what we normally do when we waive fees. It's usually a class, grade 8 class is having a graduation, they have limited funds. In this case, it's an event that's taking place that's going to raise money, and we would be asking to donate $85 to an unnamed charity. I don't think that's a good use of taxpayer money.
In the report that we have, the charities are named.
Okay, but it wasn't in what I read. But
Councillor Bailey?
But I think that the point still remains that we are not donating anything to the family. They have already paid the $85, so I don't think there's any reason for us to make this donation.
Brock, just so you know, this is also wrapped up with the Knights of Columbus, which are a far-reaching organization. And maybe Pat will want to add a little bit to this when I'm done, but this has been bounded about a bit. And it's with the Knights of Columbus too. And it's starting, and it's going to be an annual event. And again, we have complaints, especially Bernie Bailey's complained so much about unuse of our center down here, and it sits there empty all the time. And I've been to 5 or 6 meetings with the Knights of Columbus, and this is our first step together as a township and as the Knights of Columbus to start to regain the use of some of the facilities. And it's going to be a large demonstration down there. And unfortunately, it didn't describe it very well in this. Pat may want to follow up if you want, but it's more than just the McGlynn thing.
But I don't see where this refund is going to do anything to aid that. I mean, it's great to have that event, and hopefully it will be an annual event, but we don't need to contribute to it, in my view.
Any further discussion? The way I look at it, it is similar in some ways to another event that is run, or has been run yearly in Belgrade. And that basically the community and the greater community all benefit from that, and I believe the greater community could benefit from this. And it's not necessarily the $85. I believe it is more whether council supports an initiative like this as a matter of principle rather than the actual cost. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion? Okay. Councilor Bailey?
Item number 3, with the United Way of Perth Huron want to put up a banner in Wingham. And we do help them quite a bit. But in my reading of it, I see where they wanted to do it year after year after year. I wonder if we could just send this over to the Wingham Business Improvement Area.
The BIA.
Yeah, and have them just have a look at this first. They are putting banners on the main street as the BIA has done, and they're doing a lot of work, and I just want to be careful that we don't conflict that. Kathy?
Kathy?
Several council meetings ago, council passed a banner policy that is already in effect, and it gives authorization to the Public Works Department to, who they have the right to agree to who can and cannot hang banners, and it's all outlined in the policy. I think Kelly has a copy of it with him tonight. You would like to refer to the policy that's already.
And I'll refer this question to Kelly then. Would you like to take that to the BIA and just go over that with them? I'm not saying they would or would not. I am not speaking for them. But you, as you are aware of the banners and that they're putting on, I'd like Lisa, them to have their ability to have the conversation on it.
Colleen?
I believe that we're talking about two different banners here. The banners that the BIA are putting on the streets are the ones that are actually going on to individual light standards. And these banners actually speak to the ones that are going right across the road.
Yeah. But it's the year after year after year I'm concerned with before we can leave that set right in pretty close in their request.
Well, in the banner hanging policy, it pretty much states what you can put up for how long and size. So it's all there.
Can you let them know across the street? Thank you kindly.
Okay. Yes, right.
I guess I do have some concerns, because I also know that that's a long period of time, and I was, at some point, Silver Stick was thinking of erecting a banner which would fall in this period as well.
I
So,
guess I should
if they're
bring it
gonna,
out.
if they're gonna block this time forever,
They're not allowed to block
Okay.
anything forever.
so that's.
So it's all laid out in here.
Okay.
I don't want to take up the time of council, but I mean, it is here. So we will refer to the banner policy if that's good wishes of the council.
Okay. Okay, moving to council information, and the councilors to bring any points forward that they would like to discuss, please.
Just like to,
Councilor
like to look
Taylor?
at bill payments here, and I noticed on page 4 we have Cox Signs, which I believe are out of Walkerton. And we bought signs for the complex for that.
Coxson's on page 4 of the accounts.
Sorry, I'm just gonna scroll down to it. Page 4.
Yep.
How far down?
Just a little past halfway.
Okay. Right. So the large sign that's at the street for the complex, the ballast and light on one half of the, not the lettering part, not the LED, but underneath, it's a white light that shines, that broke or wore out, and they came and replaced that part. And that had only a 1-year warranty, so it was not covered under warranty, so the cost to replace and fix that was $328.13.
So just to follow up, then there was no local electrician or anybody that could do that?
I think now going forward, I would have gone local. At that time, we didn't know what the problem was, and it's their sign. So I think in future, we might take a look locally, yeah.
Any other points? Councilor Vaughn?
For number 15, I'd like to, on behalf of the council, acknowledge the achievement of Rob Fulton and getting his certification as a road supervisor, intermediate.
Right.
Number 3, do we need a motion supporting this proposed zoning bylaw change?
it's basically, we're asked, because we're an adjacent municipality across the highway, but unless you're really in favor of it or against it, a lot of times we say another municipality can choose how they handle some of their own property.
So that goes for 4 and 5 then, same thing, right?
I would look at it that way. Is there anything else? Councillor Campbell?
I'll speak to number 2 on Lakeland Valley. Their staff would be pleased to make a presentation to council about the changes that they are making in their services as far as flooding and stormwater management and all these kind of things. If we want them to come to council and make a presentation, they are available upon request.
Okay, that's an offer. Council want to,
We give the Dayton Valley a lot of money every year, and I sure like to hear what they do and what they do for us.
And next time we have a flood, they'll certainly tell you what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I think they're doing a good job at it, and I think it would be to our advantage to have them.
Councillor
I
Bowden?
think in view of the terrific changes that are taking place in the weather patterns, the work that they're doing is going to be increasingly important over the next few years, and I think it would be important to have some education for them.
Yes.
An update, basically, of how their role is changing. Thank you. Councillor Bailey?
I'd like to go to page 12, and at the very top of the page, we have a
That's in accounts?
Yes. Municipality of Morris Turnberry, we gave them a check for $1,200 and some for emergency exercise. Just curious what that one's about.
We recall back in July, we had our emergency exercise, and the cost of that day, I know they get over 100 per month, but the cost of that day was split evenly between the 3 municipalities, and that was a third of the costs that we picked up with Morris Turnberry.
Councillor Bailey?
Thank you, Kathy. I'm going to go to page 12 now. Halfway down the page, we have Spring Breezes greenhouses. I'm just curious where they're from. We give them $3,200 for flowers.
They are North Huron business.
I'm very happy to hear
In
that.
East Walnut.
I'm very happy to hear that. I don't get that often.
Anything else? If there's nothing else, motion to receive, read, and file.
So moved.
And Wadden and Bailey. All in favor? Carried. And the correspondence, there's Blind Street Fest Committee, thank you for our support, so that's nice. Thank you, everyone from the Street Fest Committee. Moving to committee reports, the health and safety is there, Maple Valley, Lincoln Area Health Professional Recruitment, and Lincoln Business Improvement. Does anybody have questions or further comments they would like to make on any of those reports? Okay. Moving to bylaw number 50 in bylaws. Bylaw number 52, 2013, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 82, 2008, as amended, being the zoning bylaw of the Corporation of the Township of North Huron. It's for the Montgomery Bus Lines property, and this is for third reading. That we did. Councillor Campbell, and Deputy Reeve Reach. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Third reading passed. And bylaw number 54, 2013, being a bylaw to appoint a fire chief, director of fire and emergency services for the township of North Huron.
So moved.
For second and third,
Yes.
and Councillor Hallahan seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Council reports and inquiries. Deputy Reeve.
On July the 27th, we held the Street Fest in Blythe, and just in case all the members of council weren't aware, Reeve Vincent played a very integral part in the Kiss the Pig contest, and that he got to kiss the south end of the pig, and as reported in the newspaper, he did a very, very fine job. And also in the gallery tonight is Rick Elliott, and he did a very good job of holding the pig for Reeve Vincent to have his way with.
His lips weren't really that close.
He did touch.
Anything else?
I understand that the pig has made the supreme sacrifice for all this
It
abuse
must
of
have been the kiss of death. Somebody enjoyed a barbecue. Okay. Nothing else? Do you have a clerk administrator report?
Nothing further.
Thank you. We'll go to public gallery questions and/or comments. Trevor.
So I just have a couple of things from the meeting tonight. So when you have, so when you look at the fee structure for, I guess, anything, do we look at surrounding municipalities or other, I guess, effect on the community at whole, on what those fee structure, and I'm not just talking about childcare, I'm talking about all fee structure. Do we look at other municipalities where their fee structures sit compared to where we are today? Is that something that we do normally, or is that per request, or how does that kind of work?
Pretty well routinely, that is an ongoing thing that we're looking at pretty well all the time.
So you get data from other municipalities, I guess is my question?
Yes.
Okay. So when we look at infrastructure, do we look at payback? Like, do we, like I heard Director of Operations say that the payback would be there, but is that calculation actually done?
Yes.
So that's, because it's not in the report, so I just want to make sure that it's not just assumed, it's actually done and then reviewed, as opposed to just, here's a $30,000 piece of equipment, the payback's there, but nobody really knows what it is. So,
Yeah, we look at the demand charges, and it's about $2 kilovolt amp, and if it was run under full power, you'd be paying about 80 kilovolt amps, but if you use VFD, it's at 40, so you're dropping it, so you're saving like $300 a month.
right, and I understand this one, but what I'm saying is that with every piece of infrastructure, there is potential payback on upgrades and stuff. So my question is making sure that I think as a taxpayer, I'd want to make sure that that's being done on every upgrade, not just this particular one. So that was my question. Was there no consultation with engineers on the town hall revitalization already? So was this just a kind of make nice, or we didn't really look at the structure of the town hall when we were doing that? I guess that's through you, Reeve, to Pat.
Yeah, I was The initial scope of work does not involve any structure and was restoration, so windows, paint, masonry, and
Shingles.
yes, the roof shingles, so the third floor, and the top of the bell tower, the cedar shakes, the copper work at the top. However, none of that is structural. So at the time of assessment, there was no reason to think that there was a structural issue with the bell tower. And our ability to get at the bell tower to assess that was impossible until the scaffolding was put up. So the problem has revealed itself, and we need to investigate further how severe the structure issue is and what the report and what the engineer deems needs to be done.
Okay, because when I think masonry, I think structure.
Right, so
So what exactly, when you talk masonry, what were they doing?
the masonry work that is being done in the town hall
Yeah,
is under each of the windows where there's been some wear.
okay,
However, during our assessment of the facade fix, there is no reason to think we have any structural issue. There are no cracks or major issues with our masonry work on the building from the mansard level down, which is below the bell tower.
okay.
There's nothing major that needs structural work.
Okay, and so, and this is just a general comment, I think, to council itself, is that I've sat in a fair bit of meetings, and I think we have to look at, as a council, big picture. I've heard of many a conversation, 20 minutes in length, over $85. I'm positive we wasted more than $85 having the discussion. So, big picture, is it improving the town of North Huron, the township of North Huron? My opinion only is, we pay fees, sure, fees are fees. But understand what those fees can do and what they cannot do when it comes to deterrent or not deterrent to bring stuff to the township of North Huron. So, look at big picture and not just the dollar sign beside what the request is I guess. And I think we, as a council and even as a taxpayer, when people are asking for those waivers and those things, we need to get them to spell out what their guide is, what their thinking is. Because that helps you guys make investigated decisions and quicker decisions, not about talking about little things. So that's just my comment overall. So thank you for letting me say that.
Okay, thank you, Trevor. Other comments from the gallery? Yeah. Well, if we go in camera session, that actually brings us to the confirmatory bylaw to confirm generally previous actions of the council of the Township of North Huron.
I move first, second, and third reading.
Councillor Lawton, Deputy Reeve Reach. All in favor? Carried. Next meeting is Monday, August 26, 2013, at 7 p.m., North Huron Council Chambers. Motion for adjournment. Campbell and Bailey. All in favor? Carried. We're done.